The following is a presentation of the Pro Wrestling Report, TV and radio. Informative, entertaining, and real since 1998. Live from the 540 ESPN studios in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, this is the Pro Wrestling Report with David Hero, Frank Cosentino, Linda Kay, and your host, Damian Nelson.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Pro Wrestling Report here on 540 ESPN, ESPNMilwaukee.com. Dave, you can put your headset on whenever you'd like and join us here on the program. Damian Nelson along with Linda Kay as WWE Raw finishes up. We are live Monday, September 5th, 2011. Happy Labor Day to all of you watching out there as WWE Raw goes off the air with John Cena, who is a bird and a plane. Super Cena tonight, defeating all odds. And Alberto Del Rio getting a little bit of punishment from John Cena as well as Raw goes off the air. A huge show tonight. We're going to talk about WWE Raw that just went off the air. We'll be joined in just a few minutes by Jay Lethal right here on this program, making his first appearance. And then joined by Gabe Sapolsky in the second hour. We're going to be taking your phone calls, talking about the latest news. We've got Fan of the Week and more, including this week's Theme of Themes. You can go to our Facebook page.
That's right. Tonight's Theme of Themes can be found at our Facebook page, facebook.com/Pro Wrestling Report.
You're so good at that.
Tonight's theme, stables.
Like horses?
I guess you can see it that way.
The horsemen are a stable.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at. We got a lot of good suggestions. Just go to our Facebook page, and you may be able to hear your favorite theme tonight.
I'm going to have 5 to choose from.
Okay.
I'm sorry?
Is this on?
It doesn't sound like it. Maybe you should take Frank's mic since he's MIA. What's going on over there? There we go.
Testing.
Yes.
Shenanigans.
Yeah. You're going to have 5 to pick from, you said.
Well, I'm going to pick them.
The people are going to pick them.
Why? So we get, the LWO again, like we did, what was that, 2 weeks ago?
I like the LWO.
Was that last week?
We don't have time to bicker.
I'm not bickering.
Facebook.com/Pro Wrestling Report. We're also going to be taking your phone calls in the second hour. The number 414-276-ESPN or 1-800-990-ESPN. Linda, we're also conversating live on Twitter.
Oh, that's right. It's twitter.com/PWR show.
And in the live chat, in the Blog Talk Radio chat room, active discussion going on there about John Cena, including RKOT Taker, username in the chat room, saying, well, even though Cena outcame the odds, again, very good Raw, again. So we'll continue to monitor your conversation in our chat room tonight, all night long live, and as Linda just said, on Twitter as well. Well, 2 big newsworthy things on WWE Raw tonight. Firstly, it would be the interaction between CM Punk, Triple H, and Kevin Nash, which would ultimately result in us finding out that Kevin Nash sent Kevin Nash the text, referenced SummerSlam, and as a result had lied to Triple H, and then as a result of that, Kevin Nash fired by the COO tonight on WWE Raw.
Fired with a guaranteed contract.
Indeed, and he said last week that, heck, he can just sit at home and get paid.
Nash is cash.
Speaking of that guaranteed contract, Kevin Nash leaves the building in Cleveland with John Laurinaitis.
See, listen, master manipulator right there. He knows who he's got to be chums with. Johnny Ace is the guy that signs. You know what? Johnny Ace could, switch the whole thing around and say, hey, you're not fired. I mean, he's the guy in charge of talent relations. Triple H is just, the COO, the cool guy.
Well, obviously.
How about you and Kevin Nash this weekend, though, Damian Nelson?
Everything's fine.
I saw you 2 guys sitting down having a little chat. I saw the chat with him and Linda, too.
He's got some information that's very important.
That's very important information.
Mm-hmm. I can't wait to hear it. Why am I not privy to this stuff?
Well, you weren't there.
Well, I saw it, but I wasn't, allowed into the area.
You're not VIP, bro.
I guess not.
The Broski was also on Raw tonight. We'll get to that in a minute. But the other big newsworthy item was the retweaking, if you will, of the match between Triple H and CM Punk at WWE Night of Champions. It will now be a no disqualification match. And in a surprising turn of events, Triple H accepts the stipulation made by CM Punk that if Triple H loses, he will resign as the chief operating officer of World Wrestling
And
Entertainment.
why does he agree? He's the COO.
The co?
He's the guy that can dictate whatever he wants. Why does he have to, agree with CM Punk? Right? He calls the shots.
He does. There was no reason for him to have accepted that.
No, not at all.
Because that was Punk's retort to his making it a no disqualification matchup. So that doesn't match.
Do you think Punk is getting a little too cocky lately?
I think he was back in Punk form this week. I think over the last couple of weeks there's been something missing. But tonight he seemed to flow better and was very well received by the audience in Cleveland tonight.
Oh, Cleveland, it's Columbus.
Columbus,
and,
sorry.
it's
Ohio.
It's very similar to Chicago.
Columbus is similar to Chicago.
Yeah.
Columbus is a college town.
Dirty.
Stop that.
What?
Sinatra liked Chicago.
We're talking about Columbus.
Right. You said it was like Chicago. Dirty.
Yeah.
Chicago's not dirty. It's one of the cleanest cities in the world.
I like Columbus.
Erase.
I don't like Chicago. But, yeah. No, you know what? It's going to be interesting. If it's a no DQ match, you got to figure that Big Sexy's going to be there and get involved because he has unfinished business with both guys.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? Here's the interesting thing. For all the IWC fans that don't like that Kevin Nash is on Raw, that Kevin Nash is a main player in the main event program, I guess you could say, nobody booed him when he was there. He got another good crowd reaction from how it came across on TV.
Well, this was a point you were making last week on PWR Primetime Television, and I guess in full disclosure, David Hero, not a lot of people agree with some of the points you made, and
it doesn't matter.
Sure, it doesn't matter, but maybe some clarification is needed because in the post-show, if you will, we talked about this and said that not everyone will probably hear what exactly you did say regarding CM Punk and Kevin Nash.
Well, that's the thing. Everyone has selective hearing, it seems like.
What'd you just say?
Selective hearing. Yeah, that's exactly it. They don't listen to everything that I say. They
hear you.
They hear bits and pieces because they're too busy drinking their Diet Coke and eating their Doritos to fully understand the knowledge that I am spewing out to the masses. And Kevin Nash versus CM Punk, when it does eventually happen, because I honestly believe it will, because that's why they brought him back, was to help get CM Punk more over. They just have to realize that it's going to be the big man versus little man match, and it's not going to be a fantastic match. It's going to be a test for CM Punk to see if he truly is the best in the world, to carry a guy that's 52 years old through a 10 to 12-minute match.
We did ask on our Facebook page, and I think, Linda, you have the results, the question, do you believe that Kevin Nash being fired on Raw tonight is part of the story between Punk and Triple H? And, Linda, it sounds like we have some results there.
Yes, we do. A lot of people saying yes, about 95%.
95%?
95%.
That's like Reagan Carter.
Of people who have answered the poll have said that they do believe that it is part of a storyline between Punk and Triple H. Otherwise, 5% saying no. Maybe this actually happened. But so let's just say that Punk does win a Night of Champions. Does that mean McMahon returns?
Vinnie Mac?
There's some unfinished business, as you just said, David Hero, with his departure from WWE. If the direction things went tonight, CM Punk and Triple H making that stipulation in the Night of Champions matchup, also the conversations that have been happening over the last few weeks about whether or not this Punk storyline was hot-shotted, whether or not it was pushed forward too fast, does it seem like we might be pushing this whole situation forward a little too fast as well?
Well, they didn't plan on having Triple H and Punk go so soon. There's other extenuating circumstances involved with, how they were going to do a Nash and Punk match, and that may not happen now. And if he does get re-signed, in storyline mode, that would happen by Survivor Series. Kevin Nash was brought in because they needed something different to take the belt off of Punk. They needed somebody new or old, I guess you could say, however you want to say it, that they needed something that would make people say, wow, I can't believe that happened. Who else on the roster could have come in and powerbombed CM Punk to let ADR win?
The choices are slim.
Very slim. So let's bring in Kevin Nash, who, by the way, is the narrating voice in the new SmackDown versus Raw 2012 game.
Narrating voice?
Well, he's one of the main players because from what we learned
storyline
over
mode?
the weekend, in storyline mode, it's going to be the WCW invasion that never happened. And they're going to have...
Hope they do this one, right?
And they're going to have Kevin Nash as Kevin Nash in the storyline mode. So why not reintroduce him to the fans as Kevin Nash? So when the video game comes out, they know who they're talking about.
It's all about the business.
Absolutely. There's a reason for everything that happens in that company.
Was there a reason we saw Drew McIntyre back on television tonight? In addition to Mason Ryan, who's back, Tyler Rex, Percy Watson, all kinds of new faces, new old faces on WWE Raw tonight.
They are now going to reestablish the mid-card.
Heath Slater gets a main event matchup with Randy Orton. You know he's endorsed.
I said, well, he's not in the mid-card, I guess. Heath Slater. He's the one-man rock band that comes out to like a southern country rock.
Sound
right?
a little bit like Jeff Jarrett's WWF theme and Honky Tonk Man and Rockabilly all in one.
You know, watching Raw tonight, when you see guys like Batista Jr., you know, and then you see Mason Ryan, and then you see Tyler Rex and Woo Woo Woo. What's his name again?
Well, Linda knows it.
Long Island Ice Z.
That's right, Zack Ryder.
How about them showing that on Raw tonight?
Yeah.
That's the first time we saw the YouTube video from Zack Ryder on Raw tonight.
Well, it's because the match was supposed to go like 6 minutes, and they realized who was all in it, and they had to, make up for time that wasn't going to be used. But it reminded me, and dare I say that Attitude Era, where all players meant something. Mm-hmm. And they spent a lot of time with the mid-card, which, Punk, well, not Punk, R-Truth, Miz, Sheamus, Wade Barrett, Jack Swagger, Dolph Ziggler. I mean, they did a really good job of bringing out all those guys and letting them showcase themselves.
And that was the main event matchup where John Cena, well, it wasn't the main event matchup, but the main event matchup was a hodgepodge of a lot of those stars, not those same stars, but stars from both brands, Raw and SmackDown, all together, seemingly to get two things done, to get John Cena and ADR to mix it up again and to establish a situation with Christian and Sheamus.
You know what? And that's
the great white hope.
That's going to be a great feud for Sheamus because Christian can teach him a lot about psychology. I mean, Christian and Randy Orton tore up the E for the last,
6 months, 5 months, 4 months?
3 or 4 months, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And that's going to help Sheamus a lot because, Christian's been around. He's a smart wrestler.
Uh-huh.
And I think that's going to be a pretty solid feud for both guys.
We also learned tonight that Triple H's new movie, Inside Out, is going to be released this weekend. David Hero, did you get your advanced screening tickets?
You know what? I actually saw it this weekend. Mm-hmm. Nash had a DVD of the movie. Mm-hmm. And it was, it wasn't bad. It was actually better than I thought it was going to be. Mm-hmm. It was good.
I'm moving it along here. It was good. So you're recommending, you are saying that people should spend their ducats to go see this movie.
I didn't say that. I said it was good. It was better than The Chauffeur or The Chaperone, whichever one that one was.
Exactly. We did ask on Facebook how many people were going to go out and see that movie Inside Out.
It's only in
starring
7
Triple
theaters,
H.
Damien.
Well, but it's in strategic markets all over the country.
Oh, yeah. Did you see the strategic markets?
Boise, Bemidji, Nome, Topeka.
Yeah.
Some big theaters there.
There must be all independent theaters.
Well, on our poll, another...
Sarah Palin said something fascinating today. Not stupid, fascinating. Like she normally does. They were talking, in my opinion.
She makes a ton of cash.
She does. And she manipulates everybody who thinks that she might run for president because she's not. But be that as it may, they were talking about polls and poll results, and she said, I think polls are for strippers.
And this was at a rally or
She said it in front of everybody. Oh. What does she care?
Oh, okay. But onto our poll here. Are you going to see Inside Out starring Triple H this weekend?
I think I saw a movie called Inside Out once.
I can't believe all the poll talk.
All right. Only about 5% have said yes, they will go see this movie, dominating 95% saying no.
Really?
Yeah.
Maybe it's because they can't, David
drive,
Hero, as you said, those markets. I mean, the Bemidji Theater only holds 42.
If they wait 2 weeks, it'll be at Walmart on DVD. So,
which is part of the plan.
Mm-hmm. Of course.
That's their planned release.
You know what? Release it in these theaters. People think it's going to be a big deal. It just gives a little bit more credibility. And you know what? Check it out when it's at Walmart. Why not? It can't be the worst movie you've ever seen.
The Miz and
that was
R
Howard
Truth.
the Duck.
You know what?
What?
Did you make it to the end of Howard the Duck, though?
Yes, I watched the whole thing.
See, that's the thing. There have been movies. I've walked out of the theater twice in my life. Howard the Duck was not one of them. I made it through the end of that movie. Linda, did you make it through the end of Howard the Duck? Howard the Duck. That was a Spielberg film, by the way.
I don't think Linda was born when Howard the Duck came out.
87, it feels like, something like that. Back when I was 2.
Yeah.
You know, another big thing
you walked out of Showgirls in what other movie?
Mariah Carey's movie, Gigli.
Glitter,
yeah.
No, wait. It was Giggly or something like that.
No, that's Jennifer Lopez.
Well, that one too.
Ooh, yeah. You didn't like Glitter?
No, it was all over me.
Who doesn't like glitter?
Did we see some glitter this weekend?
Did we ever give the poll results?
Yes, I did.
You
5%
I
saying
can't.
yes, they will see the movie.
The Miz and R Truth announced that they're going to have a match with Air Boom at Night of Champions for the Tag Team Championships of WWE. Again, this teaming of the Miz and R Truth has been tremendous over the last few weeks, and they continue to be so, even given the fact that somebody switched Miz's clothing in his suitcase and pulled a rib on him, and he had to wear what he wore tonight.
No, he bought that. You know he's that guy that walked into
He's a trendsetter.
Men's Warehouse and says, yeah, I want the checkerboard suit.
They ain't got that at Men's Warehouse, bro.
Of course they do.
No.
It's on the clearance rack.
Miz and R-Truth, the team that keeps on giving, I guess, over the last few weeks in their interaction tonight. Again, very well done. That matchup at Night of Champions, which is just 2 weeks away, I think. We've got, Henry and Orton. We've got Cena and ADR, we think, but not made yet. We've got Triple H and Punk. And now it looks like the tag team titles will be on the line again. Divas action, more focus on the Divas tonight. Some of our followers on Twitter saying they took some of the focus away with the bickering going on between the Divas. But they're still giving the Divas a ton of time, and tag team wrestling again tonight, given a ton of time.
Because they are moving in the right direction. They're going to start rebranding the Divas and the tag teams. And and you know what? They are. You can see Raw is a different show than what it was 6 months ago.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
More people are meaning something. You know what? With Long Island IZ, they gave him a proper introduction tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Do I think it worked? Maybe.
How was his pop from the crowd?
It's hard to tell. You know,
Mike's not in the right place.
Well, maybe. But, they gave him the big, they gave him a huge endorsement by having Jerry Lawler bring him out.
And he got the pinfall victory.
Yes, he did. So we'll just see what happens.
That was WWE Raw tonight. One last time around the room, David Hero tonight. Was it a passing or failing Raw?
I thought it was a solid show.
I would tend to agree with you. Many more questions were asked, and some questions were answered. And the saga continues on Monday nights from WWE Raw with the Super Show concept. And in a couple of weeks, they got Monday Night Football to worry about, so smart of them to launch that last week to get in front of it. We're going to take a timeout, our first timeout of the evening, and when we come back, we're going to be joined by Jay Lethal. I'm interested to hear what Jay has to say about his time in TNA Wrestling, his feelings on TNA Wrestling right now, and the next journey in his career, Ring of Honor Wrestling, which launches on national television September 24th. This is the award-winning Pro Wrestling Report on 540 ESPN and ESPNMilwaukee.com.
The following is a PWR exclusive.
Ooh, yeah. Welcome back to the Pro Wrestling Report here on 540 ESPN, ESPNMilwaukee.com. Damian Nelson along with David Hero and Linda Kay. We're live on Monday night, September 5th, 2011. And Superstar September continues. It started last Friday with the big party with Kevin Nash here in Milwaukee. And now we are joined here on air by Jay Lethal. Jay, how are you tonight?
I am doing pretty good. And yourself?
Fantastic. Actually, tremendous. Thank you so much for joining us here on a late Monday night. And I guess, Jay, the best place to start for our listeners out there is tell us a little bit about what's been going on since your departure from TNA Wrestling a few months back.
What's been going on so far is I've been doing every indie promotion that I possibly could. The best part about that is when I was with TNA, they had full control over who I could and couldn't work for.
Mm-hmm.
So now it's cool to get to work for some of the people that I couldn't work for, mainly the biggest one being Ring of Honor. And it's just so cool to see where Ring of Honor is now compared to where they were before I actually left. It's been pretty cool.
Yeah, we'll talk a lot more about Ring of Honor in just a few minutes because Ring of Honor, of course, taking their TV show national on September 24th in just a few weeks. You're going to be a big part of that. But we had an amazing Red on a couple of weeks back, actually. And
my best friend.
We talked to him about his time in TNA Wrestling, and he had some very interesting things to say. And Jay,
hopefully, I don't know how long he was on the show, but hopefully he was on long enough to give you the long version of actually what he went through in TNA. I mean, he has quite the story. A lot of I think he got jerked around more than any of us X Division guys did. So hopefully you were able to get the long version. If you unfortunately got the short version, I'm sure it was a little jumbled up.
We had him on for about an hour, and believe me, he went into great detail about
no
some stuff.
stone was left unturned. Yes.
So
cool.
So that leads us to you, Jay. Obviously, you departed TNA Wrestling, and it was around the same time that TNA had this newfound joy for the X Division, of which you played a big part, a 6-time X Division champion. Could you share with us the circumstances of your departure from TNA Wrestling and the reasoning behind it?
Okay, well, I was never really given a reason as to why I was let go. I can only come up with a few different scenarios of what really happened in my head. What was told to me, though, was it was a budget thing. I hadn't been on television in a while, so therefore I was one of the guys just sitting home collecting a paycheck, which they had to put an end to very quickly, as I'm guessing the company must be in financial trouble if the little bit of money that they were giving me was causing them great disdain on their banks, on Panda Energy's bankroll there.
Yeah.
But that was the reason I was given. I mean, even though there's just so much I'm thinking about right now. But that to answer that question, that was the main reason given to me. And I mean, along with that also goes, hey, creative has nothing for you. I mean, that goes without saying, especially if you've been sitting home for 5+ months.
Mm-hmm.
Creative must have nothing for you, which would build a lot of frustration on my part, because I felt like there was no reason for creative not to have something for me. I'm not saying that I'm the greatest wrestler in the world, nor is my charisma or fan base the largest in the world, but I mean, I was put on television, luckily enough, on a pay-per-view to go over means to actually win. I defeated one of the greatest wrestlers this world will ever see. I mean, the greatest legend that this business will ever see, and that is the Nature Boy, Ric Flair. I mean, if you, not just anybody, not just any Tom Joe who gets trained in some backyard and thinks he can wrestle will ever step into the ring with Ric Flair. And on a televised, all around the world television show, if you put someone over the legend Ric Flair, how could you have nothing for them the weeks to follow? I just never understood that.
And
why
Jay,
you put me over at all?
You bring up that Ric Flair scenario, and we'll let you finish telling the story in a moment. But,
Okay.
I got to say this and stop you there, because at that moment, at that time, and I'll never forget for as long as I live, that amazing segment on Impact where you and Ric Flair went back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. I will tell you this. And I said this when it happened, it was one of the best segments on TV in wrestling in the last 5 years.
And I will tell you this, it was, to this point right now, the scariest moment in my life. As you're aware, every time, well, not so much now lately with CM Punk going wild, but most of the time, whenever you see a professional wrestler with a microphone in their hand, they always have a couple guidelines in their head, or they always have some bullet points that they have to hit. And some of them even have the whole dang promo, as we would call it, already memorized in their head before they even go through the curtain, I'm sure you guys are aware of that. But well, when it comes to Ric Flair, you can't tell him what to say. You write anything for Ric Flair.
Right.
So therefore, I couldn't have anything written for me. So I had to just feed off Ric Flair. Now, that wasn't the scariest part. I mean, that was pretty scary going up against the master of the microphone. I mean, the greatest promo guy in the wrestling history, Ric Flair. As if that wasn't tough enough. But this was actually only the second time that TNA had actually allowed even touch the microphone. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, first I'm going in there with Ric Flair. I don't know what I'm going to say. I don't know what he's going to say. I gotta be on my toes. But not only that, wow, I mean, I've only ever had the microphone one other time, and I wasn't even alone when I had the microphone. I was with my buddy Creed, and I think we were cutting a promo on suicide in the ring, which was the big joking promo. So, boy, was I nervous. I still don't think I've ever done anything scarier than that.
And from what I was told and heard is that it was a standing room only when you guys were doing that promo back and forth with all the boys in the back. It was the most entertaining thing that they had seen in a long time as well.
Yeah.
And, you know, it was just so perfect. And you say that maybe it wasn't written and you were nervous. No, you couldn't tell you were nervous, Jay. That's one thing that didn't come across. I can tell you that it was so clear that Ric Flair was even impressed by what was happening, by his reactions. And when he was saying wow so many times, it was just like, this is just gorgeous. This is just magic. This is, as Ric Flair has said in the past, this is good TV. It was great. Well done.
My favorite part about that was when we were going back and forth yelling, "That's my line." That was actually awesome comment. That was her favorite part. Her and her man still go back and forth at home with that. That's my line. That's my line.
Yeah. When that was all said and done, and you guys walked to the back, what did Ric Flair say to you?
Oh, he loved it. He gave me a hug and said, "We stole the show, brother."
That you definitely did. But as you were saying, it was shortly thereafter that all of a sudden Jay Lethal was not prominent on TNA television anymore. That had to be frustrating.
It was definitely a little frustrating because what I was thinking was not again. Because I don't know if you're aware, but let's rewind about a year ago, maybe even more than that. I can't really remember the actual date. But when I wrestled Kurt Angle and I beat him for the X Division title, boy, that was the highlight in my career. Mm-hmm. And the next 2-3 months, I was off TV.
Yeah.
I don't know what I did. And it was the very similar situation with the Ric Flair. I went over on Ric Flair. I was on Impact a couple more times after that, but then I was off TV for 5 months with no explanation. So, I mean, I don't really know what I did wrong. Maybe I hate to be too sarcastic and say that I performed too well, maybe. I don't.
There is such a thing.
You know what? In this business, there definitely is such a thing. But I just was never told why, or I'd never really understand why I was taken off TV, especially after 2 moments where I'm like, wow, finally I think I'm going to be actually getting to move forward in this company, and then bam, no, nothing.
And it's a frustration we hear from a lot of talents that have performed with TNA Wrestling, and it seems as if one thing has been made clear by several people on this program, and we'll ask you directly about it right now. Is there any solid direction in TNA Wrestling? Is there a person in charge, or is it, as some people have told us, a big pot of confusion backstage?
Well, I can tell you this. No one has ever sat me down and said, hey, I'm in charge. I make the decisions. If you have a problem, come to me. But I have been told by several higher-ups, hey, if you have a problem, come to me. Hey, if you have a problem, come to me.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, if you have a problem, come to me. And then I would go to some of those people for a problem, and, I mean, it wouldn't get resolved right then and there because that person who told me to, do you have a problem, come to me, wasn't fully in charge. I don't know.
He wasn't in charge of that problem.
Right, but I do feel like maybe that company would run a lot smoother if one person just stood up and said, hey, I'm in charge. If you have a problem, come to me. I think that's all they're missing is just one person. Because like I said, I've never talked to the one person that said, I'm in charge. What's the problem? Let's fix this right now.
If you were given the book in TNA and it said, hey, Jay, we need you to fix the company, who are the top 4 or 5 guys that you would start to rebuild that company around?
Oh, wow. Well, that's a tough question.
I mean, do you keep it with Hogan and Sting and Kurt and Ric Flair, or do you go with the younger guys like, Fortune and Beer Money and, or Kenny Anderson or whatnot? I mean, where, your job is to make some money for that company, and you got, let's say, a year to do it. What changes do you make?
Well,
that's a big question.
Yeah, I think I'm a little biased on that one only because I was part of the X Division, and I sat in the locker room and I was in conversations where some of the X Division guys and us voiced our opinion. I definitely, let's take their latest pay-per-view, for example. Destination X, was it?
Mm-hmm.
Where it was supposed to feature all the X Division guys. Now, I was already out of the company by this pay-per-view, so I was an outsider looking in. Like most wrestling companies do, like the WWE, and TNA does it most of the time is pretty well when there's a main event or something that they're actually looking forward to. Weeks before, all you'll hear is the pay-per-view that's coming up. Let's say this one is Hard Justice. So 1 week, 2-3 weeks before, the main Impact will end with something cool leading up to Hardcore Justice or whatever the pay-per-view that we're leading up to is. And then 1 week before, let's say the last Thursday before that Sunday's show, it's supposed to be that's supposed to be what hooks you to buy that pay-per-view on Sunday. I mean, whether it's the main event guys coming out and getting into a big brawl because that's the main event or whatever. I was so upset and so frustrated, even though I didn't work company. I felt so frustrated for my friends who were actually on the pay-per-view, but the Destination X pay-per-view that they pushed so hard to feature the X Division, it's going to be an all X Division pay-per-view, there was nothing. The final words you hear on that Thursday leading into that Sunday's pay-per-view for an all X Division pay-per-view was about whatever bracket system they got going for
the Bound for Glory series.
For Bound for Glory. Yeah. I could not believe it.
Yep.
I could not believe it.
It's interesting discussion, especially as it pertains to TNA wrestling, but we definitely want to get to Ring of Honor as well and talk about that. Jay, we're going to take a timeout, and when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about TNA and talk about Ring of Honor and your new journey with them. This is the Pro Wrestling Report on 540 ESPN, ESPNMilwaukee.com.
Welcome back to the award-winning Pro Wrestling Report on 540 ESPN and ESPNMilwaukee.com.
And we are live with Jay Lethal here on the Pro Wrestling Report on Monday, September 5th, 2011, Labor Day Monday. And Jay, you've been very, very great to talk to so far, but let's talk about TNA, a little bit more about TNA before we move on to Ring of Honor. And I think we have a question from our Facebook page from a listener.
Yes.
Okay.
Jason Barber asks you, what level do you think Ring of Honor will get to in the next 2 to 3 years?
Well, I mean, one can only hope that Ring of Honor gets his. Well, I was about to curse there. Sorry about that.
Good
One
catch.
can only hope that Ring of Honor gets as high as possible in level of popularity, and I believe it'll work because we're shooting for a different market. I mean, the WWE and TNA are going after the wrestling fans, and we're going after wrestling fans too because our product is wrestling. But there's less story and more in-ring competition. I mean, the company is based around in-ring competition, so we're mainly shooting for those UFC-style fans who are driven by competition, because that's what Ring of Honor is making their centerpiece focus point on, is competition. So, I mean, I think Ring of Honor is going to really take off once their product is actually given to the mass marketing.
And that's going to happen on September 24th on the Sinclair Broadcasting Group, including Channel 24 here in Milwaukee, My 24, where the Pro Wrestling Report will actually be moving to as well, following Ring of Honor on Saturday nights at 10 o'clock. But, Jay Lethal, you're going to have a big matchup on one of those episodes coming up on Ring of Honor TV.
Oh, yeah. I don't want to give anything away.
You're going after a championship, and you're going to be wrestling on, as I said, Ring of Honor television. It's going to be a great matchup. We were there live, David and I, and we saw all the matches that were there to offer that night. And just absolutely, as you said, the competition, the wrestling, the realism behind it is fantastic and phenomenal.
I hadn't been to Ring of Honor in about 6 years, and boy, what it was just so cool to see some of the old faces that I saw, but mainly a lot of the new faces, and just the way I am a strong believer in wrestling is changing with the times. And if you do not believe me, boy, oh boy, you need to watch some Ring of Honor, because I saw some new guys. Not only did I see new faces, but I saw new innovative moves, especially tag team moves that I have never seen, I never even thought of doing. I mean, just being in that locker room just gets the creative juices flowing in the wrestlers' minds. All the cool things that we can do that maybe was a little cliche to do under the normal wrestling guideline rules that we're trying to change in Ring of Honor.
And, you know, I don't think you can get away with talking about Ring of Honor without comparing it to ECW. And while at their core there are some similarities, but the difference in Ring of Honor wrestling is you're not killing each other for 12 minutes in a match. It's believable. And in ECW, you saw a lot of that insane stuff that should have ended the match several times in the matchup. The pacing in Ring of Honor and the athleticism is just absolutely fantastic.
Oh yeah, I mean, I know I'm not trying to bury or dig on anything, but I mean, I know Balls Mahoney personally, but I think if I had a steel chair, I might be able to knock him out. I'm not sure. I know
at least use a dinosaur to do it.
He's one of the toughest people I know, but I don't know. I don't know about that.
You know, it's worth talking about, and obviously the unfortunate passing of the Macho Man Randy Savage earlier this year and that tragic incident down in Florida, the car crash and the heart attack. Black Machismo, the character that really defined you in TNA wrestling. You know, you've spoken publicly and said that you and Randy had spoken, or you had sought permission for the usage of the, I guess you can call it the character, if you will. But was it that whole moniker that sort of led into the Ric Flair situation? Because I think it became so clear when you were involved with Ric Flair that it wasn't impersonating, it was embodying some of the greatest stars in professional wrestling.
Oh, definitely. As a matter of fact, the TNA offices and officials, or whatever you want to call them, found out that I could do this great Macho Man impersonation or this impression just because I would do it all the time in the locker room. And it wasn't until Kevin Nash came around when he decided, hey, you know what, it'd be a good idea for you to do that on TV. I think it'd be a huge success. And right away...
Wait. You mean Kevin Nash actually helped out a younger guy?
Contrary to what you may have heard from his WCW days, and contrary to what you may have heard about him being a horrible kisser, and if Kevin is listening, he'll actually appreciate that joke. But yeah, it was Kevin Nash who it was the whole thing was his idea, and right away I didn't really want to do 3 reasons I'd say. One, because I was pretty young and I didn't want to look stupid on television because at my age, I didn't really know too much about the business. I wanted to be the world champion, the Stone Cold Steve Austin, you know, and I didn't want my buddies from high school watching me make a fool of myself on television. Luckily, that view would change very, very quickly. The second view that I had that made me didn't really want to do it was the fact that all I'd heard from Kevin Nash was how crazy the Macho Man was. And it was very feasible that he would show up and try and get through security just to get at me if I'd done this in any kind of joking way to make fun of him at all. And
there was a lot of pressure on you throughout this whole thing.
Oh, I definitely think so. As a matter of fact, the third reason where I automatically thought, no, I don't want to do this, is because I didn't think there was any way of me doing it, especially in TNA's eyes, because I knew exactly what they would make me do. I knew exactly the kind of things they would make me do. I didn't think there was any way of me pulling this off without making fun of the Macho Man.
Right.
Because, I mean, it was a big joke to them, so I'm sure they would put it on TV as a big joke. And that was probably my biggest fear of making the Macho Man look silly in any way.
And you didn't ever in any way, shape, or form do that, at least from our standpoint. Jay, we've got just a few seconds left. Thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you on Ring of Honor television. We'd love to have you on again very soon here to continue talking.
That was it? Oh, if I got much more inside to say, I'm definitely going to have to come back.
Oh, we'll have you back sometime soon. Jay Lethal on the Pro Wrestling Report. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll be right back after Sports Center. This is the Pro Wrestling Report on 540 ESPN, ESPNMilwaukee.com.
Live from the 540 ESPN studios in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, this is the Pro Wrestling Report with David Hero, Frank Cosentino, Linda Kay, and your host, Damian Nelson.
Welcome to Hour 2 of the Pro Wrestling Report here on 540 ESPN, ESPNMilwaukee.com, a special Labor Day edition of the Pro Wrestling Report. Damian Nelson here along with David Hero and the lovely Linda Kay, who's monitoring our social media networks, including Facebook, Twitter, and the chat room on Blog Talk Radio. I want to thank our guest from the first hour, Jay Lethal, who was very, very insightful in his conversation. We're going to have Jay back on in the next few weeks here. But Superstar September, David Hero, is completely booked. We've got an announcement of our guest for next week coming up in just a few minutes here on the program. But all of you listening here in Milwaukee, very important big wrestling show coming to town this Sunday, September 11th. And here to talk about it with us is Gabe Sapolsky. Gabe, welcome back to the Pro Wrestling Report.
Thanks very much for having me on. I guess it's been a year because it's been a year since we were in Milwaukee.
Wow, that's a fast year. It feels like just 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, that was a very memorable show in Milwaukee at the Miramar Theater last year, and we can't wait to get back there this Sunday. 7:30 p.m. bell time. All the NFL games will be over for the most part. No Packers, so come and check it out this Sunday.
And tell us a little bit about Dragon Gate USA for the fans who may not have made it to last year's show and why they should come down on Sunday to see stars such as Silas Young.
Well, we are all about action and excitement. This is unlike anything that you've seen on TV. If, for instance, you are a fan of Evan Bourne, he was a guy that toured Japan regularly for Dragon Gate. And Dragon Gate USA is the American branch of that. We bring over the biggest stars from Japan. These just aren't like the upcoming stars or tomorrow stars. These guys are huge stars in Japan wrestling in front of 10,000 people every night. They want to spread the Dragon Gate brand, so they started Dragon Gate USA, and they're coming to Milwaukee this Sunday. And we take the best American talent that's available too, and combine them with these Dragon Gate guys, and we have an amazing roster. These guys are unreal. The athleticism that you will see is compared to nothing else, and we're coming with a huge main event. It's actually going to be a main event that makes headlines in Japan and here in the United States, because we have the Dragon Gate Tag Team Champions, Shima and Ricochet. They're coming to take on the Dragon Gate USA Tag Team Champions, Pac and Masato Yoshino. And it's a title versus title match, so one team's going to walk out with both belts, so that's a huge deal. And I heard Jay Lethal talking about some of the tag team wrestling in the Ring of Honor, and I'm not going to say we're better or worse or anything like that, but if he thought that was innovative and creative and that blew his mind, wait until you see this tag team main event that we have coming this Sunday to the Miramar Theater. It's indescribable. These guys are unreal. I actually hope that everyone will go check out our website, dgusa.tv. We have our YouTube page linked off of there, and you can go check out a whole bunch of free videos and see these guys in action and get a sample of what it's all about.
You know, Gabe, I got a sample of that action a couple of years ago from Dragon Gate, before Dragon Gate USA was around. I think it was when they were working with TNA. And I tell you this, absolutely amazing in-ring action. And you've really not seen that style anywhere here domestically before. So it is something worth checking out. And it's almost hard to describe. I think you did a very good job of doing so a moment ago, but it's very hard to describe what you're going to see at this Dragon Gate USA show this Sunday coming to Milwaukee. But it is definitely worth checking out for the wrestling fan.
Yeah, I mean, I like to compare it to, like, Evan Bourne is a good starting point, and him and Kofi Kingston. Now, imagine what they do and multiply that by 1,000, and that's what Dragon Gate USA is. So if you like that kind of action, if you like what Rey Mysterio does or John Morrison or CM Punk, then imagine that times 1,000, and that's Dragon Gate USA. And that might sound like an exaggeration, but it's not. Come to our show. We do have a ticket sale until Thursday at dgusa.tv, so you can go there now and save 20-30% on tickets. If you buy in advance, we'll hold the tickets at will call for you, refund your shipping. So we got some great deals there. And the Miramar Theater is a great venue. It's very intimate. It only holds a few hundred. And when last year the fans of Milwaukee and the building, it just created such a special atmosphere for our show last year. And it was one of our best shows ever, I think. And I think a lot of that has to do with the people that came out in Milwaukee and the fact that everyone is right on top of the ring in that building. So it's totally different than anything that you'll ever experience with WWE.
And wasn't that also one of Bryan Danielson's last matches, right?
Yeah, that was actually Bryan Danielson's last match for us before going to WWE. It's Daniel Bryan, and he actually wrestled Jon Moxley on that show, who's now in WWE developmental territory as Dean Ambrosi, I think they changed his name to, and he's a guy that William Regal is actually comparing to Roddy Piper right now down in FCW. So that's pretty high praise there from William Regal. So the fans who came out in Milwaukee last year got to see that match, and they brawled all around the building, and Daniel Bryan bled, and it was pretty crazy. So you had two WWE superstars now right up in your face there. And, we have just as good of a talent roster, if not better, coming this year, including all those huge stars from Japan and a lot of great American talent, too. A lot of guys that have really stepped up in the last year and have really bonded and have really become a homegrown roster for us. And these guys are all future stars. In fact, I don't even like to use the term future stars. They're today's stars. They're the new stars, and they're here. They've arrived, and they're incredible, and they just need to be seen. So hopefully some people could turn out. And again, like I said, go to dgusa.tv, check out our YouTube page, watch some free videos, and then try not to be blown away.
And, Gabe, one question for you. As you talk about the Daniel Bryans and others, and obviously in your time in many wrestling promotions, including ECW and Ring of Honor, how do you as a promoter, owner, deal with those talents that do move on to whether it be WWE, TNA, or even another organization? Because it changes your game a little bit because things happen pretty suddenly.
Yeah, I mean, it does, and I learned everything from Paul Heyman. He's my mentor, and I was able to work underneath him and ECW for the entire time of the promotion, and his whole thing is take your weaknesses and turn them into strengths. And if our weakness is that talent is going to go to WWE, and I hope they do because that's where you make the big money. Every wrestler should go to WWE or should aspire to it. Once they get to a certain point, I think that they need to go to a place like Dragon Gate USA and have the great matches, and then when it's time to sell out, it's time to sell and make some money. But you take that weakness of losing the talent, you turn that into a strength, and the strength out of that is that we can always feature new talent and we can always make new stars, because if you don't lose guys, you're always going to have the same roster and it's going to get old and stagnant. If you lose guys, you use those spots to find new talent, and that's my job as the booker, to find that new talent, and you give them that opportunity and you instill that confidence in them, and then all of a sudden you have a whole new batch of stars on your hands and your product is fresh and exciting and new and original, and that's basically how I deal with it.
Well, Gabe, this Sunday it's Dragon Gate USA. It's the Way of the Ronin 2011. That's September 11th. Bell time 7:30 p.m. at the Miramar Theater. That's 2844 North Oakland Avenue here in Milwaukee. And you can go to dgusa.tv for all the information on that. You're also on Twitter.
Yep, follow me at Dragon Gate USA, and the phone number is 267-519-9744. And, in fact, I'm all hyped up from this, so I will be answering the phone for the next hour or so if anybody wants to call in and get some tickets. And, again, we have some great deals, 20 to 30% off on tickets until this Thursday, and they will be full priced at the door. We will definitely have tickets available at the door, so if you can't get them in advance and feel like coming out this Sunday, come on out. Like I said, 7:30 p.m. start. Most of the football games are over. No Packers this weekend, and this is your once-a-year chance to see the Stars of Dragon Gate in Milwaukee.
And what do the tickets start at, Gabe?
Well, I'll hook you up with some for $20-25 right now.
Oh, a hookup. I like
There you
that.
go. It's all about a
Yep.
hookup.
I'm willing to make some deals right now. I'm pretty pumped up being on ESPN Radio here. So give me a call, 267-519-9744, and I'll set you up pretty good.
All right, and we do have that information on our Facebook page as well so that you can find it easily. Gabe, thank you so much for coming on. We look forward to seeing you Sunday here in Milwaukee. Best of luck to you with Dragon Gate USA, and especially the show Sunday at the Miramar Theater.
Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you so much. Gabe Sapolsky appearing here again on the Pro Wrestling Report. And thank you so much for coming on. It should be a good show from Dragon Gate. Again, very unique wrestling that you definitely need to see to believe coming to Milwaukee this Sunday. And David Hero, Superstar September continues not just next week, but all month long. We have coming to our Facebook page some exclusive videos, video with Kevin Nash, video with Rikishi.
Whoa, wait a minute.
Not that video.
Okay. Because that's how rumors start.
That would be how rumors started. But anyways, Kevin Nash with a special chat with us coming to our Facebook page. And also, Rikishi's going to talk about Territory League. It's going to be also on our Facebook page. All of this, David Hero, and our big launch on September 24th on My 24 Milwaukee, Saturday nights, 10 o'clock p.m.
I got some new...
it's a huge, huge deal.
I got you some new outfits.
A new vest?
Yes, new vest. I got a few new scarves coming in.
Are they colorful?
Yeah, it's going to be, the little S is going to be on there for you.
Have you seen the new set? It's halfway done.
I have seen some pictures of it. It's absolutely tremendous.
All those videos on our Facebook page. Linda, one more time, where can you find that and the information about Dragon Gate USA?
At facebook.com/Pro Wrestling Report. And again, Damien, you just mentioned the link for Dragon Gate USA. It's just posted right here, or you can find more info on our Facebook page or on the website, dgusa.tv.
We're going to take a time out, and then we're going to enter the phone zone before we go to the news of the week. The number, just to remind you, 414-276-ESPN, or all over the world at 1-800-990-ESPN. Also, who's our guest next week? Find out when we come back. This is the Pro Wrestling Report on 540 ESPN, ESPNMilwaukee.com.
Welcome back to the award-winning Pro Wrestling Report on 540 ESPN and ESPNMilwaukee.com.
Welcome back to the Pro Wrestling Report. I want to go ahead and throw a shout-out to C Pipes, the artist who performs that song, Lights, Camera, Action, Milwaukee's very own C Pipes. I think that's how you have to say it, right, David Hero? C Pipes!
I have no idea.
That's how he says it in his music.
Okay, well, then you know.
You can follow my
Why
Twitter.
do I have to confirm it for you?
Because I was spurring discussion. I was getting you back into the discussion here. I wanted to make sure you were with it. I don't want you to feel left out. You got this whole ultra-sensitivity issue going on now. At C Pipes on Twitter, CPIEPZ. Thank you so much for that. And special thanks to Gabe Sapolsky as well. And Jay Lethal. But David Hero coming up next week right here on this very program. Another first-time guest. Harry Smith joins us.
Baby Bulldog.
Formerly D.H. Smith in WWE. Harry Smith is going to join us next Monday night right here on 540 ESPN as part of Superstar September.
Do you think he's going to blow
which goes
up a
all
bridge?
month long.
You
don't burn bridges on this show. You see, with my journalistic integrity, we just answer the questions that people have out there. No one takes it personally, right?
No.
Remember, Bret Hart went back to WWE.
Yes, he did. So did Sable. Interesting stuff. But you know what? You've been avoiding something all night.
What do you mean?
Not your bar tab. It is
I paid that earlier.
the Master Lock Challenge.
Oh, that Chris Masters guy?
Yeah, you know, Blizzard Brawl 7,
You know what?
Saturday,
I'm
December
glad you brought
3rd.
that up. I'm very glad you brought that up because,
Yes.
Linda, I hope you're paying close attention here.
I am.
Because you know what?
Turn the woo-woo video down, and let's pay attention here.
I have been respected in this industry for years. And to have a professional wrestler challenge me, a broadcast journalist, to a professional wrestling exhibition.
You buried the guy.
He's under that impression. Clearly, he was delusional that day.
Oh, my gosh.
I'm going to do this, David Hero. Let me answer that challenge with this. Will I go one-on-one with Chris Masters December 7th at Blizzard Brawl at Waukesha County's Expo Center? To prove to the world,
it's on Saturday, December 3rd.
What did I say?
This Blizzard Brawl 7, but you said December 7th.
Okay, now you're going to sit here and correct me? I was honoring D-Day.
Okay.
Don't get hot. Just answer the question. We don't got to hear all this
To
big
prove
pomp and
to the
circumstance
world-
nonsense.
I'm not playing that music. Jay Lethal was on earlier. To prove to the world that I'm more than a broadcast journalist and host of the year, I accept Chris Masters' challenge. And I will step into the squared circle, and I will go one-on-one with Chris Masters at Blizzard Brawl 7. And you know what? You laugh, you chuckle, you shrug your shoulders, you shake your head. You can do all that. But know this one thing. With my trainer, who I may or may not disclose before December 7th, with my trainer.
Yes.
Bro, when that was signed, when I made that phone call,
save you.
When I made that phone call, and he said absolutely, after saying really a couple times, he said absolutely. I'm in there like FloJo. I'll see you December 7th, Chris Masters. December 3rd at Blizzard Brawl 7,
just
Chris
promise
Masters.
me one thing. You're going to make sure you have paid up your life insurance, list me as a beneficiary.
I called Alex Trebek.
And then also, just in case you don't get killed, make sure your health insurance is paid for. You know what? And you're going to sign a waiver, because if you get hurt,
I don't need no sticking waivers.
I don't want
I ain't
none
got
of this
time to
stuff
bleed.
coming back on me. Listen, I hope you really thought this out, because this isn't going to be,
I've thought about it for a month. And again, you don't even know who my trainer is. And I ain't telling none of y'all. It's between him and I. And I tell you this. I got no worries, broski. Woo, woo, woo.
Oh, you'll throw it. Mm-hmm.
Let's go to the phones. It's time to enter the phone zone. Linda, I know you're surprised. Don't worry. I know I'm delicate. I'll still be here.
I can't wait. I want to see how this turns out.
Oh,
I don't. It's not going to end well. And it's all going to be on me. Because it's going to be on...
Match of the year.
It's going to be on IPPV also this year.
Uh-huh.
So that means the millions of Damian Nelson Holics.
And my 25% of the gate.
No, this is... no.
Harry Smith joins us next week here on the Pro Wrestling Report. Looking forward to talking to him and being in the now next week right here on PWR Radio. As I said, we're going to go to the phone zone. The number 414-276-3776, or all over the world at 1-800-990-ESPN. And let's go first to Dwayne, who's waiting on line 1. Dwayne, you're live here on the Pro Wrestling Report.
How's everybody doing tonight?
Tremendous.
All right. I got two questions. How sure are you guys that Triple H is going to put over CM Punk at Night of Champions?
How sure are we that Triple H is going to put over CM Punk at Night of Champions?
Yeah.
Okay.
I never said that.
Because I got this feeling that it won't happen, and then Punk is just going to lose all his steam, and then I don't even know what's going to happen after
They
that.
are too heavily invested into Punk to let that happen. I'm not saying Triple H is going to put him over clean. That's why it's a no disqualification match. Let's not forget, who did Triple H just fire?
Right,
Big Sexy.
Okay, now could you also see, because after watching it, I kind of had this little idea, a storyline idea, maybe Johnny Ace taking over, like it was maybe like a whole plan with Nash, and maybe throw CM Punk in there, like it was like a whole big, coercion to get the McMahons out of power.
I think if you compare them, who would be more intriguing in that role? Triple H now or Johnny Ace? It seems like Triple H is the easy answer there. I think this whole thing has so many plot twists and turns to it that's it's well developed by WWE, even though, as David said earlier, there's some things that may have set some plans off kilter. It's still very intriguing, and there's still all those questions. It was SummerSlam when the whole text thing came up the night after SummerSlam, and it took this long to get it explained. That's good. Because the only way people are going to tune in to Raw each and every week, SmackDown each and every week, is if those unanswered questions that they care about are still out there.
Yeah, I think they've been doing real good with this story. I think some parts were kind of rushed a little bit, but overall, I would give it an A because it has me tuned in, and I just like the whole direction that WWE is going now. Getting other stars more involved. The whole super shows. I actually kind of like it because it's back to how it used to be when everybody wrestled on both shows and
Yeah.
They're getting the tag teams. Hopefully the tag teams will get better and they get some real tag teams in and start showing divas more.
And what this shows, Dwayne, I think anyways, what this shows is it's not ever one big thing that does something huge in wrestling. Now, you'll argue that back in late June when CM Punk did his promo, that was that one big thing. But it's always a bunch of little things. That's why, arguably, several of these people, these big game-changing signings in TNA haven't done anything for them because it's not just that. You've got to have all those little things. The things you just listed, Dwayne, are part of that list. You've got to watch it and not just be focused on that one thing and that one story. It's got to be all those little details that keep you intrigued and keep you there. It's like I used this analogy before, Black Friday. You go to the store, you buy this hot deal, let's say it's a Damian Nelson bobblehead that maybe it's on sale.
How appropriate.
And they've only got 2 or 3 of them in stock. Guess what? They do that because you're going to buy something else. And that's exactly what's happening on Raw right now. CM Punk was the catalyst, and all these other things have fallen under that place and are keeping people tuned in. Now, arguably, the ratings haven't shown that, but it was Mike Tyson in 1998 that was the catalyst to take Raw ahead of SmackDown in the ratings, and that took 2 months. These things don't just happen. It's a simmer, a slow burn. And it seemed as if you had something to say, David Hero.
You know what? You're comparing.
If you don't, that's fine.
No. I mean, you're comparing Tyson and Punk.
No. I didn't do that. I said that.
Are you sure? That's how
no,
it
I
sounded.
did not. Don't publicize this. What I said was you need a catalyst. In 98, the catalyst was Mike Tyson. In 2011, the catalyst is CM Punk. Not comparing the two, just saying that they filled the same role.
Well, I don't. Now that you explained yourself, it does make a little bit more sense. But I don't know if Punk has the ability to sustain.
Fortitude?
No, he has the fortitude. But I don't know if he'll have the ability to sustain. I mean, he can only come out and say the same thing for so long. Something else new has to happen to keep that character fresh. And right now, he's going into a feud with one of the top guys in the history of the business in Triple H. And people say, oh, he's not that good. Triple H is great. We saw how great he is when he wrestled Undertaker at WrestleMania. Mm-hmm. Told a great story.
And you know what I was thinking about tonight when those two were nose-to-nose in the ring?
They're what?
You
a foot away?
Can't but not think about how great Triple H has performed time and time and time and time again. Controversial it may be, there is no comparison between Triple H and CM Punk as far as the performances that they've given in the ring. CM Punk's a great wrestler. Triple H is one of the best wrestlers in the world today with one of the greatest wrestling minds in the history of the business. And that right there, unfortunately, was something I saw tonight as a distinct difference between those two men. We'll see if it comes into play at Night of Champions, which should be a great and entertaining match nonetheless.
It's definitely going to be a match that the fans are going to be emotionally invested in because there's a lot of Triple H fans and there is a lot of CM Punk fans. And this is going to be a match that can dictate which way the company is going to be going forward. I mean, I can't imagine that Punk is going to beat Triple H just so Triple H is no longer the COO, but that would open up a door for Vinnie Mac to come back. Vince isn't done yet. That's not how Vince is going to leave.
I went out and I bought my competition.
Wouldn't it be
You're
great?
Fired. I've got the size of grapefruits.
Wouldn't it be great if
Security
Vince brought back Kevin Nash and a new version of a younger stable?
A new version of a younger stable?
Yeah, maybe
what the heck
maybe
does that
a
mean?
new world order.
The Oddities? Or
No.
maybe the stable we're going to hear when we come back here on the award-winning Pro Wrestling Report, where the theme of themes is stables and 540 ESPN and ESPNMilwaukee.com.
Welcome back to the award-winning Pro Wrestling Report on 540 ESPN and ESPNMilwaukee.com.
Welcome back to the Pro Wrestling Report here on 540 ESPN, ESPNMilwaukee.com, live on Labor Day Monday, September 5th, 2011. And tonight's theme of themes are stables.
Absolutely. That, of course, was Evolution. One of my favorite stables, as a matter of fact. Thank you, Matt Rodriguez and Paulo Roque, for being the first ones to choose Evolution, which was mentioned lots of times here on the Facebook page. I think the most from what I've just scrolled through.
Well, we didn't get to as many themes as we wanted to tonight, so what the heck, use the bell. Next week, we're going to go with more stables. That'll be the theme of themes next week, as Harry Smith is going to be our guest here on the Pro Wrestling Report on 540 ESPN. And I have a very important correction to make on a comment made earlier that was made inaccurately. And unfortunately, it was identified that Steven Spielberg had something to do with the movie Howard the Duck.
You're really correcting that? Of all the other nonsense you've spewed tonight, that's one thing you're going to correct?
Do you want me on December 8th?
No, December 3rd.
You want me on December 4th? Because once I'm done with Chris Masters, I can teach you a thing or two. Wait till you see my finisher. Can't wait. Revolutionary.
I can't wait to see your finisher either.
George Lucas.
The Jameson drop.
It was George Lucas. Is that better or worse than Spielberg?
It's better.
414-276-ESPN, all over the world, 1-800-990-ESPN. Let's go to our next caller. Glenn, you're live here on the Pro Wrestling Report.
Hey, guys. How you doing?
Tremendous.
Great.
I have two questions. One's real quick, and the other one is kind of complicated. Real quick.
Like on
Damien
Facebook?
The complicated one.
No, real quick. Do you think that William Regal deserves to be champion as his goodbye, farewell? Or do you think he doesn't need it?
William Regal, I think he's been United States, Intercontinental, European champion, all of those things during his time in WWE. William Regal's a great talent, and, I think it makes some sense for him to get a title run at some point while he's still in WWE.
Not anymore. Come on.
Really?
He doesn't fit in anymore.
Doesn't?
It's a different era. It's a different
Maybe
group.
he's the Anon Raw GM.
Listen, as much as everyone says Nash doesn't, belong on Raw
Why do you
anymore.
keep going back to that?
Because it's a hot topic. It's what everyone's tweeting about and Facebooking about and texting about. I just don't see William Regal committing. I mean, it's one thing that he's the commentator for NXT because it that fits him right now. I don't think he wants to to get back in the ring full time anymore.
Glenn, what's your next question?
Do you think it would be nice if WWE or TNA or any wrestling promotion uses more types of matches? What I mean by that is, like, WWE is trying to make their tag team division, better. What I think they would, I would love to see a relay match, which is teams of three switching places every 3 minutes, and first pinfall wins. It's new,
Switching teams every 3 minutes?
Yeah, no, a relay match, which is a six-man tag.
Yeah.
And these batons.
But it's two six-man tags, which means, 6 men on each team, 3 men fight, and 3 men fight. Every 3 minutes, the team switch off,
Sounds like it's hard to follow.
Sounds like a King of the Mountain match.
And the first pinfall wins. I think that would be great to see in a tag team match.
I wouldn't mind seeing it once. I didn't like War Games, even though it was the match beyond. Actually, I'm sorry, World War III. Let me go ahead and make sure that's crystal clear. I had no problem with War Games, actually. I enjoyed the match beyond with the first Hell in a Cell, if you will. But, I don't know. I mean, I'm all for new match concepts, and thank you very much for that call, Glenn. I'm all for new match concepts, but I think you need the right scenario and the right players in that match to make it worthwhile. Thank you very much again for that call, Glenn. Let's go to our next caller, Dustin. You're live.
Hey, how are y'all doing tonight?
Tremendous.
After Kurt Angle was arrested, do you think he would get suspended from TNA?
You know,
Where does he go from there?
Dustin, this is going to be a perfect segue for our next segment because the big news coming out just yesterday was the arrest of Kurt Angle for driving while intoxicated. Again, arrest, not conviction. However, there's some precedent that's been set that definitely warrants discussion. So, Dustin, we'll talk about that in just a few minutes. Thank you for bringing it up. As you know, it's Kurt Angle's second incident this year where he's been alleged to have been driving while intoxicated or under the influence. And this time he's even saying he thinks he's been framed. I don't even know, and I watch a lot of Law and Order. I don't know how you frame somebody doing that.
Where did he get pulled over again?
Let's call it Vermont, I think. Virginia, maybe?
Was it West Virginia?
Could have been. We'll find out in just a moment here.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I can't imagine that. Oh, maybe Raka Khan knows people.
Hey.
Oh, she might. I mean, no. I for him to say that he's framed, come on. I can't wait to talk about this.
It was Virginia, Warren County, Virginia, actually.
Vermont.
You got a problem with Vermont?
When does TNA go to Vermont?
Well. Yeah.
Virginia. So it's safe to say that, Kurt Angle isn't very over in Virginia.
Well, he got pulled over.
Yeah, but, obviously they were looking for him.
I want to remind you this Thursday night we're on we're on PWR Primetime Television, actually, on demand at pwrshow.com and on Channel 14 here in Milwaukee. That's going to be the booker for TNA No Surrender, David Hero.
Are we going to wait for the break to talk about Kurt Angle, or are we going to talk about him right now?
We're going to wait for the break because we don't have enough time right now.
I got to jot this down so I don't forget this stuff. Hold on a second here.
This Thursday, it's Be the Booker for TNA No Surrender, which is on pay-per-view this Sunday night. And as always, after all pay-per-view events from WWE and TNA, it's the post-show from the Pro Wrestling Report.
So I got to watch it? Come on. I was going to go to Dragon Gate USA. Now I got to watch TNA? You are too much, Damian Nelson.
We have obligations, David Hero.
Maybe I can find a stream from somebody.
We don't condone that behavior here. You're a pay-per-view promoter now. You want people trying to find a stream when you're on iPay-per-view?
Believe me, they will try to find a stream. There's no question about it.
Well,
are you okay?
We're going to talk.
You seem flustered.
No, not at all.
Would you like a drink?
Not at all. We got David waiting on hold. We're going to be taking some more phone calls as we close out the phone zone. The number 414-276 ESPN 414-276 ESPN or all over the world at 1-800-990 ESPN. I'm just flustered. I am flustered about the mistake made with the Howard the Duck thing earlier. It's more adventure than humanly possible.
Now I know where I recognize the Miz's suit from.
This is the award-winning Pro Wrestling Report. We're going to take a time out.
Howard the Duck had the similar suit on the movie.
Stop that. Why must you hate?
I'm not hating. I'm pointing out facts.
That was Bob Barker's suit.
No, that was.
Hugh Jackman is going to be hosting Raw in a couple
Howard the Duck and the
weeks.
Miz have the same haircut too. If you notice,
this is the award-winning Pro Wrestling Report on 540 ESPN, ESPNMilwaukee.com.
It's time for the Superhero Song of the Week on the Pro Wrestling Report here on ESPN Radio.
This is ridiculous. Is this a remix of the Sanford Sun theme?
No. This is one of the greatest factions
of the Justice
of all
League,
time.
There are assembled the world's 4 greatest heroes, created from the cosmic legends of the universe.
Pay attention, David Nelson.
Superman.
See?
Wonder Woman.
That's Linda Kay.
This is what you're absorbing the last 13 minutes of the show with. Really? Really?
Here's Cody.
Aquaman.
See? There's Cody Rhodes. Aquaman.
We already reviewed this last week on Primetime. Cody is lacking one thing.
And those 3 junior super friends, Wendy,
Damien,
Marvin,
Frank, and
Wonder
Meathead.
Dog.
Who?
Their mission
I'm worried about Frank.
fight
Frank no show tonight.
To right that which is
He'll be
wrong,
fine.
and to serve all
Stop!
mankind.
Can we kill this, please? I can't. My ears. You see this red stuff? It's coming out of my lobes.
It's allergies.
You know, I was actually named after Wonder Woman, Linda Carter.
How? See?
Okay, there's something
That's
else
what she
going
said.
on, though, in the middle there.
You know what?
Wait, what?
The golden lasso?
No, the invisible plane. The wristband. Wristband.
No, it's not wristband. It's bracelets. Silver bracelets.
Let's go to David, who's been waiting patiently on hold. David, you're live. Hello, David.
Hey, how's everyone?
Tremendous.
How's everyone doing tonight?
Linda's doing great.
Okay, my question, I was going to talk about Raw, but you made brought up an interesting point about when you're talking about War Games.
The match beyond.
I would love to see the WWE or TNA or Ring of Honor even try to do that concept again.
Wouldn't that be something if War Games
Thanks for the call, David.
is involved with CM Punk and Triple H somehow?
You know, I got to say this, and we talked about a couple of weeks ago on this program or on the TV show, how WWE is sitting on a gold mine, and we heard about the WWE Network tonight, which, by the way, as far as we know, there's nothing signed yet. They're still trying to farm this out to carriers. But they're sitting on a gold mine. They've got all those great properties. They've got Halloween Havoc. They've got the Clash of Champions. They've got War Games. They've got World War III. They've got all these copyrights that they got in the fire sale of WCW. And they can make, some of these special Raws or these super shows or these 3-hour Raws or whatever. How great would it be to have a War Games Raw? The match beyond. But War Games is too close to Hell in a Cell. And if they admit where that came from, there could be a problem, David.
You can't bleed anymore. I mean, so why have a War Games?
Why have a Hell in a Cell
Why have a Hell in
pay-per-view?
a Cell, But that's what it's all about. It's about, Satan's chamber. It's all about destruction and brutality.
Blood and gore.
Absolutely.
Thank you for that call, David. And as we talked about before the timeout, David Hero, this past Sunday night, Kurt Angle arrested for driving under the influence in Virginia. He has stated that he was not under the influence. It's all very similar to what he said back in March when he was arrested for this as well, and then ultimately did get some fines and some other stuff he had to deal with as it relates to that. This is not good for TNA, who's dealing with a couple of situations right now. And it seems as if just last week they set a precedent when they fired Matt Hardy.
That was a couple weeks ago.
A couple weeks ago when they fired Matt Hardy the day after he got cited for driving while under the influence. Now, the difference, though, in this situation, Matt Hardy was under suspension from TNA Wrestling. Kurt Angle is not. But, David Harrell, the question that must be asked is, they set the precedent with Matt Hardy. Don't they have to react pretty sternly with Kurt Angle?
Absolutely. And how about the IWC? I mean, no one's really, talking about that quite as much either. I mean, Kurt Angle, super talented guy. Obviously, he has a few issues. We don't know if it was drinking, if it was pills. Maybe he was just really tired.
He
Who
says
knows?
it's nothing. He's being framed.
You don't get arrested in a $2,000 bail. If you're framed, it's like for something far bigger than that. That's when they find drugs in the car and a body in the trunk kind of thing. That's how you get framed. But TNA, as much as I hate to say it, they got to do something about this.
Mm-hmm.
Because otherwise, what's to stop Jeff Hardy and Matt Hardy and anyone else that has been, suspended or released by TNA in the past if they don't do something similar with Kurt Angle?
Yeah. And, speaking of something similar, this could happen to anybody, by the way. And we made this point with Matt Hardy. We make this point in anybody's situation. But, we've had several conversations over the last few weeks with talents from TNA Wrestling. And they pretty much put the icing on the cake that we had already baked about TNA Wrestling. Does this show an inherent problem with TNA Wrestling? And I'm not going as far as to talk about drug use or anything like that, but you heard about Alex Riley earlier in the year getting a DUI in WWE and the whole situation with Heath Slater and whatever may or may not have happened at WrestleMania, which clearly there's nothing to it because he was on TV tonight. This happens in entertainment. This happens in sports. Does it show, though, that there's a problem with TNA's ability to manage its talents and keep its talents out of the headlines? And did they show that it doesn't matter to them when they brought in Jeff Hardy and made Jeff Hardy champion a couple times while he had pending drug trafficking charges against him?
You know what's interesting? We need to take a poll with some of these former TNA stars and ask them how many times they have taken a urine test or a blood test for their wellness policy that they said they have in place.
Mm-hmm.
I've talked to a few, and some have said that they have never taken one, or they took one in within 3 or 4 years. I think that they have to police their talent a little bit better. It starts at the top with TNA.
Right.
It really
Wherever
does.
that may be.
Yeah, nobody. How amazing is it that nobody knows who is the person in charge of that company?
Maybe we can try to find the person in charge of TNA while we're looking for Carmen Sandiego.
In Philadelphia?
Well, wherever. We'll be in Philadelphia. I'm a little scared to go there now, David Hero, because you've brought some heat on this show.
How so? What have
all
I
this
said?
bad talking you've been doing about TNA lately.
Oh, come on. We'll be fine. Seriously, you got the Pope there. He has you covered. Popalicious. Have you called him in a while?
Kurt Angle not convicted. Kurt Angle not convicted. Very clear. He was arrested. We'll see what happens. Now, one thing that was stated as part of his deal with his March arrest was that he had to go a year without anything else happening. Mm-hmm. We're still in that window. This could be bad news for one of the top stars in TNA wrestling. David Hero, I was a little surprised by a tweet sent out by World Wrestling Entertainment earlier this week about an auction to have Mick Foley come and host a party at your crib. Not your crib, not Linda's crib, but whoever wins the auction's crib.
So the E is sponsoring a Mick Foley deal.
Auction. It's for charity.
Mick is going back. There's no question.
Seems to point in that direction with WWE sending out that tweet earlier in the week. I love these Kia commercials. They're fun. The hamsters.
You like
Alvin, Simon, and Theodore?
And the Halo and the guys from Halo?
I'm not familiar with that. I'm not a gamer.
No, I'm happy for Mick. Listen, like we said before, who really wants to have their last match in a soundstage? There's no knock on TNA, but that's what it is.
It's a reality. It's a harsh reality.
That's the reality of it. Why do you think Kevin Nash went back to the Royal Rumble? If he never does wrestle CM Punk, he was at the Royal Rumble. Okay? Mm-hmm. Mick Foley's going to come back. He's going to have another match or two, in the E. And, of course, it'll be closer to WrestleMania time. I firmly believe the Rock and Sock connection is going to make a comeback. And why not have that start at Survivor Series? Why not bring Mick Foley back to New York, Madison Square Garden?
New York City?
With The Rock. We need to go to the Survivor Series this year.
I'm otherwise detained.
Well, then Linda and I
I'm going to TNA's November pay-per-view.
I've never been to Madison Square Garden. So yeah.
I got to go to Bound for Glory, and then I'm going to the November pay-per-view for TNA. That's tremendous.
Like I said, you want to go to the Survivor Series,
Her
Linda?
travel's authorized by me. Her expense reports are paid by me. Linda, that trip is not approved. However, what is approved is this week's Fan of the Week.
All right, Fan of the Week. This week it's Robert Llewellyn saying...
Robert Llewellyn, like Doug Llewellyn.
Oh, sorry, Robert Llewellyn.
Rooster Block.
Saying...
People's Court, Doug Llewellyn.
Years ago, I heard the U.S. title used to be the #1 contender spot for the World Championship back in the old NWA days. Basically, the boys fought for the U.S. title to get the right to challenge the champion, while the champion got to pick his challengers in the meantime, which led to great matches that built a heat on a heel. For example, heels performing 5 unnecessary finishers on some jobber, or a face letting other faces put him over. I've always thought this was a great mechanic. Would that angle work today with the U.S. title or Intercontinental title? And if not, why?
Thank you very much for that email. How do you become Fan of the Week, Linda? Send us an email.
Yes, send us an email. You can just send it to comments@pwrshow.com. Again, that's comments@pwrshow.com.
And, actually, you go to the front page of the PWR website, pwrshow.com. There's a little contact box right there now, so you can send us an email that way, too. The question, the United States title, the Intercontinental title, were always the next person in line for the championship. And having those titles defended in a more respectable fashion, I guess, on a more regular basis, I think could be good for the wrestling business right now. With the focus going on the divas and the tag teams, it seems like that mentality overall is there, and I think we're going to see some more importance given to the Intercontinental and United States Championship belts coming up. Thank you so much for that email, Robert Llewellyn. And I want to thank all of you who joined us in the chat room tonight on Blog Talk Radio and on Twitter, twitter.com/PWR show, and also on Facebook. And to our guests, Gabe Sapolsky of Dragon Gate USA. Gabe's going to be here on Sunday at the Miramar Theater, Sunday, September 11th. You can go to dgusa.tv.
I want to thank Twitter follower NatureBoy D. Moore for proving my point that Howard the Duck does look like The Miz.
It's Labor Day. Don't be hateful.
I'm not.
He's a fashion plate. People still talk about the Dr. Styles Slick. They still talk about Classy Freddie Blassie. They still talk about
fashion plate
Regis
fell off
Philbin.
the Porsche a long time ago.
Also, want to thank Jay Lethal. Jay Lethal's going to be joining us again in the next few weeks right here on the program to continue talking. Very insightful discussion with him. And next week, Harry Smith right here on this very program. Thank you so much for all of you who called in, and thanks for tuning in here to the Pro Wrestling Report live on 540 ESPN and streaming all over the world at ESPNMilwaukee.com. For Linda Kay, David Harrell, this is Damian Nelson saying so long, everyone. We'll see you next week right here on 540 ESPN.
Which way you can get low, drop to the floor and move it slow. Many, money, which one you can get low, drop to the floor and move it slow.